Grixis Control on one side, Esper Stoneblade on the other. Now, for what it's worth, Ben has had a lot of success playing Esper Stoneblade. You know, this is a deck where, you know, it feels a little bit outdated. That doesn't actually mean that it's true. It just appears to be that way.
Yeah, and I think what'll be interesting here is that Grixis Control, this kind of Grixis Delver or Control Shell, has really risen in popularity in Legacy over the last couple months and has been one of your go-to control decks. Now, Esper Stoneblade historically has been one of the control decks of Legacy, so there's an old versus new going on here, and it'll be interesting to see how they match up.
Thoughtseize is the play here for Friedman, a lead-off day number 2. You'll find a Snapcaster Mage, a Ponder, a Dig Through Time, a Cabal Therapy, and a couple of lands over there for Blackmon. He's got a Bloodstained Mire, Scalding Tarn, and an Underground Sea, so a perfectly keepable hand here for Nathan. One thing to note about his deck list as we do work our way through the first opening turns, 4 copies of Dig Through Time here.
All right, and that's something we've been seeing a lot of across Legacy.
Yep. Snapcaster Mage is going to bite the dust.
Even in Ben's deck, Esper Stoneblade, a deck that does not play too many Dig Through Times, Ben is on 2 of them this weekend. Does actually have the Intuition Lingering Souls package in his deck, so very close to a Tom Martell, Shaheen Sarani style strategy.
As an Underground Sea, here is a Ponder. Blackmon will take a look at the top 3. We'll see if he wants to rearrange and keep them, or if he'd like to shuffle and get a mystery card. Expect a pretty grindy affair here, honestly. You know, neither of these decks are very quick.
Yeah, so, and I mean, you see Ben preparing for that kind of fight. When his Thoughtseize takes a card like Snapcaster Mage on turn 1, it really shows that Ben wants to fight that grindy sort of game.
It's a basic island, and Ben will pass the turn back over to Blackmon. Underground Sea, the draw here for Nathan. Keep in mind, he did keep with his Ponder, though he is playing a Scalding Tarn here on turn number 2.
Both graveyards filling up. Nathan does appear to have a copy of Dig Through Time in hand. Could have gone for Young Pyromancer there, but actually will just leave up mana at the moment.
A little bit interesting of a play there. I do kind of like it. As here's a Stoneforge Mystic from Ben. Yeah, he could play Young Pyromancer, and then he wouldn't actually be able to play an instant or sorcery to actually make a token. I think what he's setting up is Young Pyromancer plus Cabal Therapy in 1 turn. Start to go after Ben's hand a little bit, make sure he gets some value. In the meantime, Ben is going to play Stoneforge Mystic, get a Batterskull, and really work his way into a longer game.
Well, that rewards the way that Nathan played this last turn, because now he actually knows one of the cards in Ben's hand, so this next Cabal Therapy won't be blind at all.
Volcanic Island here for Blackmon.
And I guess some interesting posturing on Ben's part as well, because he knew about the Cabal Therapy and was willing to cast Stoneforge Mystic into it.
Ben does have a copy of Force of Will in hand. Unclear if he has a blue card for it or not, but I suppose we'll find out soon enough. Blackmon will draw a card. You see he does have a Lightning Bolt in his hand. Picked up a copy of Force of Will for the draw step.
Yeah, now if Nathan leads out on Young Pyromancer before going for Cabal Therapy here, that'll take away any hope that Ben would have of using Force of Will to protect his Batterskull, as Nathan would just be able to flash back the Cabal Therapy a second time.
There's an Underground Sea. Here comes the Pyromancer. Ben will take a look at his hand very quickly. Again, Force of Will over there, Batterskull in hand.
Remember, this was a line that Ben was okay with. He knew about Cabal Therapy when he cast the Stoneforge Mystic.
It'll be a Brainstorm in response to the Young Pyromancer. That's going to resolve. Friedman will draw 3 cards. Of course, he'll have to put two back, excuse me.
All right, so that shows Ben's hand a little bit. He was fine getting the extra card, because once Cabal Therapy happens, the Batterskull, I imagine, will not be in his hand.
Curious how aggressive you want to get in response to that Brainstorm if you're Nathan. You have the opportunity to maybe Force of Will, removing your Dig Through Time, though Dig Through Time is an incredibly powerful card. And then you can really go after that Batterskull with the Cabal Therapy. You'll get to see another card, or get to take another card with the Cabal Therapy, presumably. It's unclear how aggressive you're supposed to get with your Force of Will in that spot.
Yeah, and if this is the drawn-out affair that it's shaping up to be, maybe exiling Dig Through Time is just too much of a cost. If Nathan had a cantrip in hand, that might be a more reasonable play.
2 cards go back. Looks like Young Pyromancer is going to be in. Now, much like you, I'm assuming that Ben probably hid that Batterskull. I don't know what kind of mind games you want to play in situations like this. I think that's why you see Friedman smiling a little bit, as here's Cabal Therapy. It'll trigger the Young Pyromancer, and Elemental Token's on the way.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan can make the play to name Batterskull here, though I can't imagine that it's in Ben's hand. So what'll be interesting to see is what he decides to name instead.
Well, we see the hand here for Friedman. A Force of Will, Stoneforge Mystic, a Flooded Strand, a Swamp, and a Lingering Souls. Swords of Plowshares was the name.
Yeah, in the dark, it's a pretty good card to name. It would make sense if Ben had one. There has not been a window for Ben to cast it.
The tough part here, if you're Nathan, is do you want to flash back that Cabal Therapy? Is there anything even worth taking? You know, another Stoneforge Mystic? I don't really care about that too much. Force of Will without no blue card, I suppose. And then Lingering Souls, well, that's off the table.
Yeah, there's not a great take for Nathan. I think the reason he may go for it anyway is just simply right now he has the security of knowing it will get something.
And he's going to go with Stoneforge Mystic. Blackmon going to pass the turn back. Friedman will draw. Picked up another copy of Stoneforge Mystic.
This means the next card down is Batterskull.
Yep.
And I was curious see if Ben would shuffle his deck to then so that he could tutor up the Batterskull. He may just tutor it up here anyway with Stoneforge Mystic.
There's a Stoneforge. There's the Batterskull. He'll take that off the top of his deck, add it to his hand.
And this is really the engines of both of the control decks going after each other. As for Stoneblade, it's that Stoneforge Mystic Batterskull engine that can be the win condition for the deck as it plays control. For Grixis, a Young Pyromancer fills the same role, so we'll see how they stack up against each other here.
It appears Nathan was considering countering that Stoneforge Mystic. He at least paused Ben there briefly. But it's in now.
Yeah, well, the danger about countering it is that Nathan knows that Stoneforge was Ben's draw, so that means he knows that Batterskull is the next card on top of the deck. So all you're actually countering there is a 1-2 that draws a card. You're not actually denying Ben the Batterskull, so it may be best to just sit back on Force of Will in this situation.
Nathan's draw this turn appears to be a Brainstorm. You can see his hand, Force of Will, Dig Through Time, Lightning Bolt, and a Brainstorm. The land for the turn is Bloodstained Mire. Ben's got a pretty good idea of what's in his hand at this point as well because of that early Thoughtseize. Doesn't know all of the contents right now. Blackmon will pass the turn back. Stoneforge will be activated. And Ben just waiting for Nathan to say that's fine, even if it's not particularly fine.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the opportunity if Nathan were to have a card like Vendilion Click, it would be very powerful. He doesn't, however.
Yep. Not going to find any in his main deck this weekend. His creatures, 4 Young Pyromancers, 4 Deathrite Shamans, a Snapcaster Mage, and a Baleful Strix. A much more controlling build of the deck.
And do you have to feel like when Young Pyromancer tries to size up against Stoneforge Mystic, Pyromancer seems to be on the losing side of this battle?
You know, Stoneforge Mystic has really gotten a lot of guff recently for just kind of being a little too slow in what looks to be a pretty fast legacy format. Cabal Therapy certainly on the uptick, and when that's on the uptick, the natural combination is Young Pyromancer. But we can't really sell Stoneforge Mystic short. It's not going anywhere in Legacy.
Yeah, and I mean, that Batterskull matches up very nicely to an army of 1/1s.
Yeah. Now, Dig Through Time is being casted by Nathan with the Stoneforge Mystic activation on the stack. So Dig will resolve. Nathan gets a couple of cards there. Found another copy of Dig Through Time. Ben's got his Batterskull. He's untapping, and he's moving to his turn. So the 4/4 Living Weapon is on the battlefield. A pretty good place to be here for Friedman. He's starting to slowly build an advantage, though his opponent did just resolve Dig Through Time. So while Ben's got the better board, it's unclear if he's actually got the better hand at this point. Here come the attackers.
Yeah, interesting. Ben offering up both Stoneforge Mystics. It would cost Nathan his Young Pyromancer if he wanted to trade with both of them, but it would deny Ben the ability to continually reset Batterskull.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting there. Ben's going to lose a token. I would have been surprised if Nathan traded his Young Pyromancer for the other Stoneforge Mystic. Seemed unlikely. Now here's a copy of Lingering Souls. Now this is really the trump in the matchup for Ben.
Yeah, this is a lot of raw resource, whereas Nathan has to jump through hoops to get his 1/1s. You know, has to continue to chain cantrips, keep Young Pyromancer in play. Ben has no such difficulty, just gets to tap 5 mana and has 4 1/1s, all with flying.
And flying is the important part of that card, right? That line of text is huge here.
Absolutely. There aren't, I mean, I don't believe there are, outside of the 1 Baleful Strix, that there are any creatures with flying in Nathan's deck. So these spirits are largely unblockable.
Yeah. 5 mana, make 4/1/1 flyers, pass the turn back.
Yeah.
You can move Batterskull into a flyer if you feel that's necessary, or if you feel it's a safe play to make.
Yeah, remember, all 4 of those 1/1s came off 1 card, and we start looking at what it would take for Nathan to actually trade away with all of them. I mean, I'm not sure if he's even running copies of Forked Bolt right now. That's his best kind of answer, but usually his decks have 0 to 2 of them, and I'm guessing 0.
Yeah, you're going to find 0 copies of Forked Bolt here. He actually's got to really work to get those off the battlefield, because you don't want to make exchanges like Lightning Bolt one of them, Snapcaster Mage Lightning Bolt the other. You know, you can Baleful Strix block one. I mean, you can tell with how his deck is built, he's not really prepared for Lingering Souls. For example, he has a main deck Terminate. You don't want to terminate one of those things. He's got to really work to get through this. Cabal Therapy is going to take care of the Force. Well, the last card here in Friedman's hand is the Marsh Flats, but Nathan is in some real trouble. That's part of the reason that you see players going towards a card like Lingering Souls right now against these Grixis control decks. Now, Dak Faden has arrived. We don't see this one in Legacy a lot. And that -2 ability, well, it's targeting a Batterskull.
Yeah, and that's actually huge. I was going to say, if he can't remove those spirit tokens, his best bet is to attempt to race them. And it didn't look like that would be possible because of a card like Batterskull. However, Dak Faden could really change this.
Now, the question is being asked. Nathan was about to attack with an Elemental token, and he does control the Batterskull. What he doesn't control is the Germ token. So Ben can still block if he wants to block.
Right, and so the Germ token will actually be in play with Batterskull on it, and it'll be Nathan's Batterskull and Ben's 0/0. So Ben will continue to hit Nathan with it. This puts pressure on Nathan to draw a 5th land. When he does, he can pay 5 to move the Batterskull to one of his own creatures. Then the Germ will die, and then Nathan will be the one with the Vigilance Lifelinker. But until that happens, Nathan's going to take damage here. Here's an attack for 8.
Yeah. He's going to really need to find that 5th land. It's going to help him immensely. And it looks like one of those spirits is going to go towards the Dak Faden. Again, don't see that card a lot in Legacy, but it certainly can be potent. And if Blackmon's able to find that 5th land, it might be a game changer. He'll take a draw step here. It looks to be another copy of Lightning Bolt.
The multiple Lightning Bolts could be helpful if this turns into a race situation, though right now it looks like we're heading toward a spot where once Nathan gets the Batterskull on one of his own creatures, he'll be able to close out the game at his own pace. But maybe with these Lightning Bolts, he can slow down the game to give himself more time to draw this 5th land.
Maybe buy enough time to be able to do that.
Exactly. I mean, and you see he has a copy like card like Dig Through Time in his hand now. He's actually 1 card short of being able to cast it right now, of being able to, double Lightning Bolt and then cast Dig Through Time. Which is why I think we see Nathan going for a card like Brainstorm here.
It's a little bit of help. Brainstorm never hurts. So he'll draw 3 cards. Found a Brainstorm, Cabal Therapy. Now have to put 2 back. And he is still in search of that 5th land, too. And I think that may have been the other card that he found. Cabal Therapy, not going to be very useful right now. So I think that's an easy one to put back. Yeah, looks like Lightning Bolt, too.
Yep, and the last land was a Scalding Tarn. So not only is it going to be that 5th land he wants, but it also will help fill his graveyard toward Dig Through Time.
Tarn is the land for the turn. That'll enter the battlefield. You see his hand here with a Force of Will. That Dig Through Time that we mentioned might be the centerpiece for this comeback here. And all I can do is pass the turn back right now. He's at 10, Friedman at 24. Friedman will sacrifice that Marsh Flats on his upkeep.
And there's high velocity here. Nathan can cast Lightning Bolt and Dig Through Time on end step here.
That's 2 more tokens for Young Pyromancer, too.
Yep.
Nathan eyeing up that Batterskull that he controls.
Yeah, thanks to the Dak Fadens in the yard.
Sort of. Even though it's on the other side of the table. Yeah, you do control it. You just need to get it off of that living weapon. That Germ token needs to go away. An island, and here's a Brainstorm for Ben.
All right. And Ben only needs to hang on for those last points of damage.
Ben will draw 3, putting 2 back here momentarily.
Looks like Stoneforge Mystic and then a one of Engineered Explosives for the draw here.
I'm sure Explosive's an interesting draw here. Not sure if it has much of an impact on things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Nathan's threats are creatures at 0, but Ben can't reasonably set his engineered explosives to 0. It does too much damage to his own board.
Lingering Soul tokens coming across. Friedman just trying to hold on with those. Looks like maybe a Lightning Bolt's going to be cast. Again, I'm not excited if I'm Nathan to cast Lightning Bolt, but I think it's just necessary to slow this down a little bit.
Yeah, well, the game's not actually about card advantage anymore. It's just about surviving to Batterskull.
Stoneforge Mystic here for Ben. I assume a GT or a sword or something for him?
Yeah, GT is his only other equipment. Ben just playing the Batterskull and GT right now.
Okay. Nathan will sacrifice a Scalding Tarn to get a Tropical Island. The blue-green dual land only there for Deathrite Shaman to be able to gain a little bit of life.
What's interesting is we will see what Nathan wants to do with regards to this Stoneforge Mystic. If he dig through times into a blue card, he has a Force of Will already in hand.
He's taking a look at the top 7. He'll get to take 2 with him. Lightning Bolt among those cards. It's funny, he would kill for a card like Electrolyze right now, which is not particularly playable in Legacy, given mana cost, but he would love to have one of those in his deck right now.
Yeah, any of those 1 damage to multiple creatures, Electrolyze, Electrickery, something like that.
And he is going to use Force of Will, removing Brainstorm. Had to take 1 to do it, but another Elemental token here.
Yeah, and he just wants to deny that Umezawa's GT draw from Ben. GT is one way that it would make it impossible for Nathan to race. Ben would put the GT on a flyer, attack, and then could possibly use the GT counters to deny a couple hits of lifelink off Nathan, and that may be enough to deal the remaining 5 damage.
Yeah, I think countering that Stoneforge Mystic was certainly a good idea. We're going back Blackmon's way now. He's got 5 lands, pretty healthy board over there with 5 Elementals and Young Pyromancer, and he's resolved 2 dig-through times this game.
Yeah, and for Nathan, this was all a setup of staying alive until he can get 1 Batterskull hit in.
Again, he currently controls that Batterskull that's on Friedman's side of the table.
Yeah, that was thanks to a Dak Faden a few turns ago. But he hasn't had the 5th mana to move the Batterskull until this turn.
Source of Plowshares was named with that flashback Cabal therapy. Ben with his engineered explosives in hand, so the coast is clear. And now he's going to make his move. The Germ token goes away. It's a 0/0 after all. Batterskull's going to equip onto an Elemental, proving once again that Dylan Donegan is superior to Brian Brondu.
Well, he's a 1/1 to Brian's 0/0.
Yeah. And now here come the beatdowns. Young Pyromancer is going to trade with Stoneforge Mystic. Some Elementals, along with 1 carrying a Batterskull, will come across. Nathan's going to gain some life. And if Ben doesn't have an answer to this, there's no way out.
Yeah, I mean, Ben took 8 that turn, so these attacks are going to come very quickly. And one thing I do like is that how Ben played this here, he traded with the Young Pyromancer so that the whole board was on creatures with converted mana cost 0, then dropped his engineered explosives.
Looks like he's going to reset some things. The problem here for Ben, and this is why I think Nathan is probably favoring this matchup, though they've exchanged a lot of resources, Ben has brainstormed a couple times, and he's Stoneforge Mystic and found some equipments and all that stuff. Nathan has resolved 2 dig-through times this game. So he's the one that's got the leftovers, while Ben has no cards left in hand. And he's also got to choose what the leftovers are in this situation. He's replaying Young Pyromancer. He's got a Lightning Bolt in hand for Ben's next threat. He's got that Batterskull thanks to the Dak Faden. Ben is now playing off the top of his deck, and he needs some real help. And I don't even know if he has a card like Dig Through Time in his deck.
Yeah, well, Ben has 2 copies of Dig Through Time,
okay,
not the full 4. And while he doesn't have that raw 2-for-1 that Dig Through Time gives you, these 3 Lingering Souls in a lot of ways are Ben's own additional copies of Dig Through Time. It's just Dig Through Time that always makes some 1/1s.
Now, as important as Dig Through Time has been for Nathan in this game, and on the other side of things, Lingering Souls has been very important. It's actually just that one of Dak Faden that's had the real effect on this game, if you think about it.
Yeah, and that was really the trump. It looked like Ben was in control of the game up until that spot.
Here's a Snapcaster Mage off the top for Friedman.
Looks like a cantrip is his best option here.
And Blackmon's hand, he's got a Brainstorm, a Lightning Bolt, and a Land, so he's going to cast Brainstorm in response. He'll get an Elemental token from Young Pyromancer. Perhaps on the search for a counterspell.
Well, there's Dig Through Times number 3 and 4.
I'd rather have those. That card is no joke. He's going to hide both of those on top of his deck in case a discard spell comes flying off, which I like a lot, actually. Ben going to flash back a Brainstorm, it appears.
Yeah, Ben did have the option to go for Thoughtseize, but went for Brainstorm. And it looks like it is 2 lands and the card Counterspell.
Yep. Not particularly helpful. And he's got to put those cards on top and play a fetch land to be able to shuffle and get a new card, because none of that stuff is helpful right now. There's Lightning Bolt to take care of Snapcaster Mage. An Elemental token is made yet again. Dig Through Time is going to be the draw here for Blackmon. But I think we might see him just suit up a Batterskull again. He'll start by playing a land for the turn.
And he's going to do just that. So this is another attack for 8.
2-turn clock. Blackmon going to go up to 10. Friedman down to 7.
And Ben's next card is Counterspell, so he's going to have to crack a fetch land and hope to get something different.
Yep, down to 6. Blackmon's going to ponder here. Dig Through Time looks like Force of Will and a land. He's going to keep it, and if he's keeping Force of Will, which he is, along with the Dig Through Time in hand, I believe Ben Friedman is on a no-outer.
Well, unless he has something that's uncounterable, which I don't believe he does.
Some sort of
fine to agree.
Some sort of sweet land.
Supreme Verdict.
Okay, okay.
There we go.
Forgot about that one. That's fair.
Yes, he does have one.
Okay. It doesn't look like that was his draw step. Nathan going to shrug his shoulders, attack. Swords of Plowshares going that way. Force of Will going this way. Nathan Blackmon's going to win game number 1 over Ben Friedman. Grixis Control up a game over Esper Stoneblade. We expected the first game to be long, and it was. I expect the sideboard games to be long as well, but it was actually just, again, that one of Dak Faden.
Yeah, very flavorfully. Dak Faden comes in and really steals the game for Nathan.
Didn't expect to see that this morning, but hey, a pretty healthy one of in the deck. And now as we go to the sideboards, we're going to start with Ben Friedman. We'll see what kind of options he has here in this matchup. I think that Nathan is the more controlling of the two. He wants to play a bit of a longer game. Any way for Ben to maybe shorten it up?
Well, let's look at Ben's sideboard. So he has some additional sweepers of his own. So he has 2 more copies of Supreme Verdict, which seems like it could be a reasonable answer to some of these young Pyromancer stuff we've seen going on. If he wants to make it shorter, though, as he said, the only additional threats he can board in is 2 copies of Meddling, or 3 copies of Meddling Mage, which I don't particularly like in the matchup. So my guess is we'll see Ben adopt a stronger control role with cards like Supreme Verdict, maybe Thoughtseize, some more engineered explosives of his own. If he can keep those elemental tokens under control, maybe then he can let some of his more powerful cards carry the game.
Other side of things here for Blackmon's got a lot of one-ofs in his sideboard. Jace the Mind Sculptor, Flusterstorm, Vendilion Click, Null Rod, Umazawa Shite, Engineered Explosives, Pithing Needle, and is it Static Caster, a Red Elemental Blast, Pyroblast, Marsh Casualties, Diabolic Edict Surgical Extraction, and 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage. Of all of these singletons, the one I'm most interested in is a Static Caster because it takes care of Lingering Souls.
Right, well, Lingering Souls, you mentioned before, is a card that Nathan has a lot of difficulty dealing with. He doesn't have any clear removal for it. So is a Static Caster a great option for that. In addition to that, we might see him go to a card like Marsh Casualties that can sweep the board of 1/1 flyers.
Yeah, it's unclear if that's even a card that Ben would consider playing around. It's got some flexibility too. It can kill the 1/1 flyers. If you pay the full amount on the casualties, you can take care of a Stoneforge Mystic and some other nonsense.
Yeah, for black, it gives your opponent's creatures -1/-1. If you kick it for 3, it gives them another -1/-1.
So some good options here for both players. I do, again, really like the way that Nathan Blackmon is situated for the matchup. So we'll let them sideboard, get ready for game number 2. In the meantime, we will talk about the Star City Games Summer Sale. Not a lot of time left. This one's going to stop at 11 o'clock today. 20% off of select Commander and Casual singles. But we will have a new special for you at 11 a.m. today. So be sure to be checking out the website or the broadcast. We'll go over that for you at 11 a.m. But we've got a new sale every single day starting at 11, and we've got standard favorites on sale all month long. StarCityGames.com for more information about that. Again, a new sale coming today, and this one over in about 90 minutes.
You know, I always liked the design there on Mox Lotus. There's that conversion rate of 100 colorless for 1 of any color. Seems really steep, except when you look at the first ability and you're adding an infinite amount of mana to your mana pool. So it's fine unless your mana pool is cleared.
and it only costs 15 mana to put into play.
It is only 15 mana.
That's it.
You could have Emrakul, or you could have this sweet mana ramp card.
Is Mox Lotus too good for competitive play? 15 mana to have infinite mana? I don't see a problem, really.
I mean, yeah, I suppose, like, you'd probably rather Show and Tell and Omniscience into play than a Mox Lotus.
Right? Now,
Yeah.
I guess, okay, so here's the problem. Tinker's banned, so you don't have to
Alright.
worry about that. But I could see some people getting real dirty with, like, Trash for Treasure.
There's a treasure that Mox Lotus into play.
Yeah, it's just, look, people get creative with cards like this.
You could Cloud Post it into play and then go
That's
relay to town.
That's a bit of work to cloud post it into play.
But once you got it, then you'd have all the mana.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
No, I actually, like, with Show and Tell, you would just put something else into play. Like, the first thing on your list is not Mox Lotus. It's definitely Omniscience or Emrakul or Gristlebrand or something. So, just saying, we could print this, it would be fine, and neither one of these decks would play it, so what's the problem? What's the problem? Nathan's going to start off with a Ponder. He'll take a look at the top three. We'll see if he wants to keep them or if he wants to shuffle them away.
All right, so this is the battle for the only player at 9-0. Nathan Blackmon, a relatively unknown name. He's a player from the Houston area.
Okay.
Joining us for the Invitational. Finished 9th at SCG Houston. Lost a win and in at our most recent SCG Dallas. Both of those were in Standard. He was piloting Obzon and Jess Sky at those two events. So still looking for his first top 8, but off to a great start at this Invitational.
You know, one thing is Ben's going to resolve a Stoneforge Mystic. Probably going to search up Batterskull, but it could be Umezawa's Jite here. One thing that, you know, we kind of do as a Magic community is we always take a look at who finished in the top 8. Never really looking at 9 through 16, but, you know, you can find a lot of consistent finishers in that 9 through 16 area. What you just told me about Nathan, I was actually unaware of. So those are two still very impressive finishes. Both those tournaments were large, too. Dabbing Delta is always large.
They're in the 700s.
Yeah. Very respectable finishes, and given those finishes, not a very surprising start to see Blackmon here at 8-0. And currently up a game in what appears to be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting matchup. What really hit it home for me, that one, is just the 4-2 advantage that Nathan has on Dig Through Times.
Dig is such a big card in this matchup.
I mean, it's looking like it'll be a big card in every Legacy matchup, but you're absolutely right. There's so much just resource trading going on in this matchup that having a card like Dig Through Time just help you not only get card advantage, but to ensure that you have the right card to trade in a situation just seems so important.
Another Ponder here for Nathan. He's going to keep it, draw that card. Badlands looks to be the land. And a Lightning Bolt's going to go after Stoneforge Mystic. That'll take care of that. Friedman will draw, picked up a copy of Brainstorm. He'll play a Flooded Strand to start things.
What was interesting to me was that Ben actually opted to get Umezawa's Jite instead of Batterskull with that Stoneforge Mystic. A couple of explanations. One could be that he simply is going to Brainstorm one away, so it doesn't really matter. Could also have the Batterskull in his hand already. Or maybe just honestly wants Jite.
Ben going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand after resolving Brainstorm, so it's a healthy Brainstorm here for Friedman.
Yeah, it looks like Ben has upped his count on Engineered Explosives. He has 1 in the main, 2 more on the board. There are at least 2 of them in his hand already.
Curious on why so many this weekend. That's not a card you would oftentimes see in multiples. You'll find one sometimes, and maybe someone has like an Academy Ruins or something, but that's a lot of that card.
Yeah, well, I guess as people move toward things like Young Pyromancer, Engineered Explosives becomes powerful. Certainly it's good against some of the Death and Taxes part of the meta.
Yeah, this is true. Nathan will sacrifice a Scalding Tarn. You saw Ben sacrifice his fetch land and just pass the turn up. I find it unlikely that he's playing around Stifle, but I think that he just wants to have that land on the battlefield, not have to worry about maybe you doing something and me having to crack my fetch land. That goes in the stack, and then you doing something in response, because right now Ben does have a copy of Counterspell in hand.
Yeah, if you already know that you're going to crack that fetch land for your plays next turn, there's no harm in doing it early.
Looks like in the draw step, we're going to have a Vendilion Click. That's the new one.
And among the cards in Ben's hand one of them is Intuition, which, as we know, frequently finds 3 copies of Lingering Souls.
There's a Swords to Plowshares. Blackmon is going to target Friedman. So, Intuition, 2 engineered explosives, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Counterspell. That's the hand here for Ben.
How telling that Ben has blue up here, but is just not casting Counterspell.
Maybe he doesn't think that Nathan will take the Intuition. Because I actually think the Intuition right now is a premium card in Ben's hand for the Lingering Souls interaction that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Fortunately for Ben, even if the Intuition leaves, he has a backup play in Jace the Mind Sculptor. In addition here, if Nathan, this forces, I think, Nathan into taking the Intuition. If he doesn't, there's a real chance that he draws Ben into a land off the Vendilion Click, and that's just a disaster for Nathan.
Well, Intuition's going to go away. And keep in mind, that was on the upkeep of Ben's turn. Yeah, it was not during the draw step. Which was, typically, we're so used to seeing that on the draw step. You stop someone on their turn. Nathan decided to go for it on the upkeep.
Looks like Ben did hit the land.
And now Nathan's got a good idea of what Ben is working with. There's only one mystery card over there. But got to be very scared of Jace the Mind Sculptor and how you sequence your plays when you know your opponent has a counterspell.
And Ben not wanting to take down that blue.
This is a young Pyromancer.
And that'll be countered.
Yep.
This opens the door for a card like Jace the Mind Sculptor from Ben.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't take the opportunity to cast this. Now, one thing that I think that Nathan is trying to do is he's trying to very strongly represent a counterspell. And by counterspell, I mean Force of Will.
Exactly. But I think in Ben's situation, the possibility of having Jace is too strong here to not go for anyway.
Yeah, Ben is not buying it. He's going to cast Jace. He's going to hope it resolves.
And in these fair matchups, players oftentimes don't have the full Force of Will after game one.
Yeah, because it gets so grindy.
Yeah, you're trying to score 2-for-1s in your favor, not in your opponent's favor. And there are very few cards worth pitching Force of Will to. Now, to be fair, Jace the Mind Sculptor is one of those cards. So Nathan now being punished for the fact that he doesn't have Force of Wills.
Now, the nice thing actually here for Nathan, though it's never nice to play against Jace the Mind Sculptor, is he does have clean answers to the card. Right now it's at 3. He is playing Lightning Bolts. They're still in the deck. We know that, at least in some capacity, since one took care of his Stoneforge Mystic. Now his Engineer Explosives on 1, past the turn back. That can take care of the Deathrite Shaman. Blackmon will draw a card. Baleful Strix, Umezawa's Jite, Ponder in Nathan's hand. He's also got a dig through time.
But the question is going to be, how does he get Jace off the board? So we often say in Legacy, if a player gets to activate Jace 3 times, especially in a matchup like this, that's just about as good as winning the game.
Oh, I like starting here.
Well, it's card advantage war. And war of Dig Through Time versus Jace. We know Dig Through Time is real good, but can it keep pace with the Planeswalker?
See if it can find an answer. Take a look at the top 7 cards.
Needs something like Lightning Bolt.
Looks like there's a couple copies of Pyromancer over there. A Jace for Nathan.
A Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast would also do the trick. Nathan has one of each in his sideboard.
I would be very surprised if they're not in the deck after sideboard. But given that he has not immediately taken something here off the Dig Through Time, doesn't appear as though he's found an answer. I think he's found Young Pyromancer and Cabal Therapy off of this dig.
Yeah.
He'll put those other cards to the bottom.
Well, there's some good cards he had. One of the cards that he passed on was his own copy of Jace.
Well, he's going to get a land out of his deck and shuffle that Jace back in by cracking the Polluted Delta. There's an Underground Sea. Looking for an answer to the Mind Sculptor. Can Baleful Strix or maybe Young Pyromancer help?
Pyromancer's got a shot at doing it. Now, he knows there's another Engineer Explosives in Ben's hand. So we'll see if he's going to go ahead and take care of that with this first Cabal Therapy.
Yep.
Beautiful. So now, this is one way to actually to beat Jason in a game of Fair Magic, is to make an army of 1/1s. As long as Ben doesn't have an Engineered Explosives to sweep them up. this will do the trick.
Young Pyromancer is going to generate another elemental token, flashback Cabal Therapy, take care of the Thoughtseize, pass the turn back over to Friedman. And Jace has got some real work to do now.
Yeah, but that's something that Jace is good at doing. Here's another Brainstorm. Here's 3 more cards for Ben.
2 equipment in hand now for Ben as he puts the other 2 cards back on top of his deck. Delta will be the land, Batterskull and GTA are the hand. I think we're going to see the 4/4 living weapon in just a moment.
And how telling is this game? You know, I have said first, you know, can Dig Through Time beat Jace in card advantage? Somewhat jokingly, as Jace is really the king of card advantage, but that's not a joke at all here. Nathan, with that result, Dig Through Time, looks like he may actually just be able to power through a Jace.
Oh, I think it's very possible that Dig can help him power through a Jace. Dig is extremely powerful. And it has been on display this match. There is Batterskull. And that's going to resolve.
And Batterskull was such a problem permanent for Nathan game 1. He was really at the mercy of it up until he found his deck fading. Will he be able to do it again?
Not a great hand here for Nathan. It does appear as though he has a Ponder. So that can really do a lot of work here.
There's so much pressure on Nathan. Every turn he doesn't deal with this Jace, that's another Brainstorm for Ben.
There's the Ponder. Elemental token on the way. Time to look at the top 3.
Oops, found a cantrip and some fetch lands.
Yeah, it does not look very helpful. So he's going to shuffle that away.
Said before, still looking for some of those red blasts or a lightning bolt. Players in game 2 of note, 13 minutes remain in the round.
Did he draw a good one? He drew his Jace again. That's actually just fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not terrible. He has enough blockers that he can have a Jace War.
Well, I actually just like this turn. Yeah, bounce that, kill your Jace.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, the unsummon here.
Yeah, I love this.
That's huge. And now it's not even a Jace War. It's just Nathan with a Jace.
Yep. And Ben with no answer to get it off of the table right now. Ben is not a Lightning Bolt deck. He's going to play a Snapcaster Mage.
Ben's going to try to rebuild here. It looks like Snapcaster is going to target a cantrip, maybe a Swords to Plowshares, take care of Young Pyromancer. But he doesn't have a great answer for the Jace, and it's going to be Nathan who gets to Brainstorm now.
Engineer Explosive is going to take care of Deathrite Shaman. Ben trying to whittle away the forces so that GT can actually work here. Batterskull can equip on the Snapcaster Mage. But Ben knows he's in some serious trouble. And Dig Through Time in hand.
And what an MVP of a card, Dig Through Time. It's another Brainstorm for Nathan. He now finds his copy of Dak Faden. Ben doesn't have the 3 up. It looks like Dak is going to steal Batterskull again.
This is getting hard here for Ben Friedman. Maybe impossible.
GT, Dak Faden, Dig Through Time, Baleful Strix, all sitting in Nathan's hand. Here's the Planeswalker. It'll take Batterskull. How does Ben even deal with this? His last card is Umezawa's GT.
It's going to have to be good. I don't know if GT can work through all of this, though. Ben will play in Academy Ruins. Here is GT.
You mentioned before, sometimes you see Academy Ruins with some Engineer Explosives. Ben on just that plan. As Umezawa's GT equips to Snapcaster Mage that trades with an Elemental, Ben nets 2 counters off it.
Yep. Ben not going to use the counters on the GT now because if Nathan decides I want to equip Batterskull, okay, I'll kill your thing in response. That'll be your entire turn. I find it very unlikely that'll be Nathan's turn, but that's an option here. And Ben with Academy Ruins at the ready to start returning Engineer Explosives.
And remember the danger, however, is that if Nathan pluses Dak Faden, he can threaten to steal the GT next turn.
Yep. Nathan going to start his turn by sacrificing that polluted delta. Give his deck a pretty healthy shuffle.
Ben slides the Batterskull over to Nathan's side of the board. Nathan does now control the Batterskull. Even though it's Ben's card.
There's the brainstorm portion of Jace. 3 cards in grip, 3 cards added to the grip. 2 cards will have to go back on top of the deck. And this feels very reminiscent of game number 1. When we've worked our way into the middle/late game, it's Nathan with all the cards, not Ben.
Yeah, and you're talking about that dynamic. Both times we've seen Ben go even or ahead in the early game. His Stoneforge Mystics have outclassed cards like Young Pyromancer. But once we get to the later game, once Ben tries to close out the game with something like Lingering Souls or Batterskull, it has been Nathan's cards, his Planeswalkers and Dig Through Times that have actually overpowered the late game.
Dak Faden has been a true MVP here. Now Nathan is resolving Dig Through Time. Ben with no cards in hand, all he can do is activate Academy Ruins maybe, if he wants to. Nathan again taking a look at the top 7. Gonna be taking 2 cards with him. Boy, is this getting hard. Explosives
so
and
much
lightning
dig
bolt.
through time from Nathan Blackmon.
Yeah. Now there's a Deathrite Shaman, though he can't cast that one. Volcanic Island won't allow him to do that. Explosives going on top of the deck. Let's see what it's going to be played for. Looks like it's going to be 3.
Well, and Nathan forced this play when he plussed Dak Faden, because if Ben doesn't make the explosives on 3 play, Dak will steal GT.
Well, Dak is gone. That's Ben's entire turn. And if I'm Nathan, I'm thrilled. Because, all right, that's one piece of the puzzle that doesn't even matter that much right now.
Well, every turn you force Ben to make a 1-for-1 trade, you get another Brainstorm off Jace. So, yes, there's a 1-for-1 trade, but Nathan's drawing more than 1 card per turn. So every turn that this continues to happen, Nathan grows farther ahead.
2 cards back on top of the deck after that Brainstorm. Nathan with what feels like 100 cards in hand to Ben's 0. Just very hard to lose from this position. Here are the attackers.
Yeah, and it's hard to lose because Nathan's deck has, instead of having synergy, things like Stoneforge Mystic with equipment, it just has a lot of raw card advantage. So once you get ahead, the deck has the ability to turn any card into any other card very easily. So being up 2 cards, being up 3 cards, just creates this very insurmountable advantage. You see here, Nathan just pushes the envelope. I mean, he's getting ahead. So suddenly now he gets to cast Baleful Strixes. He gets to use Engineered Explosives to 1-for-1 with GT.
Ben going to take a draw step this turn. Pass the turn back. Explosives is going to be activated. Strix and GT are going to bite the dust. Ben will activate the GT to take care of Deathrite Shaman, but Nathan has cleared up that problem.
So actually what ends up being a 3-for-1 in Ben's favor really speaks to how far ahead Nathan is. He just wants to get the GT off the board, even at that expensive of a cost, because now he can equip Batterskull.
Yep. Doesn't mind that exchange at all.
A 7-card group for Nathan to 1 card from Ben.
And the only thing that Nathan doesn't know is what that card is in hand. He can control the top of Ben's deck if he wants with Jace, though he's opting to Brainstorm. He knows what Ben can bring back with Academy Ruins, which nothing too crazy to worry about.
Yeah, Ben can get back to GT, but now he has no GT counters and no creature, so it's not as much of a threat.
Just grinding him down. There's an equip. A vigilant attack. Nathan gonna gain some life, Ben gonna lose some. Pass that turn back. Friedman putting explosives back on top. That'll be his draw for the turn. Here's a Thoughtseize. See if that can clear the path or something.
Well, Nathan's got a lot of great cards, but Because they're so interchangeable, I don't see one Thoughtseize doing a significant amount of damage.
There's an underground C.
Thoughtseize is still just a 1-for-1 trade here.
I think we're going to see him just cast Snapcaster Mage. Not going to get any value off the Snapcaster Mage. Just wants another creature on the battlefield. Here's his hand. Brainstorm, G-Take, Cabal Therapy, Lightning Bolt, and I believe Deathrite Shaman.
By casting Snapcaster Mage here, he's forcing Ben to take Lightning Bolt, which is the worst card in Nathan's hand.
Yep. No great choices here for Ben as he goes down to 7.
I mean, there's 7, yeah. Snapcaster Mage puts 7 power of creatures on the board for Nathan.
And he's got to take Bolt. Because if he doesn't, he's just going to die.
Right. Take that. We'll see if he can fend off next turn's attack. Looks like he has that answer with Engineered Explosives.
Pass turn back. Blackmon will draw.
Right. Had he not played this line of taking Lightning Bolt, Nathan would have been able to move Batterskull to Snapcaster Mage and cast Lightning Bolt for lethal. As it is, it looks like Ben has bought himself 1 turn.
Jace, it's going up. To the bottom that card goes. Now here's Deathrite Shaman. And what's so important here for Nathan, too, is that he's just keeping the casting costs all over the place. That's really, really important at this point. He's got a 1 and a 2, so Engineered Explosives just can't do everything here in this instance. Supreme Verge off the top of the deck is relatively annoying if you're Nathan Blackmon. Ben just going to continue to try to fight on.
Staying alive, but...
Ish.
Yeah, it's... You see Nathan, okay. Respects the top deck, he'll go back to brainstorming.
Yep.
None of this Fate Seal. But he's got to set up some diversity of creatures. Otherwise, Ben can just continue to recur Academy Runes.
Well, this will help him do that.
Engineered Explosives. Yeah, so with Young Pyromancer, he gets to have a 2 and a 0 in play.
On this turn, he just wants to be able to... Yeah, Ben's going to replay here, Engineered Explosives. Nathan's going to sacrifice a land, I believe, in response.
Yeah, I think he's going to brainstorm here so that he gets a token.
Yeah, which is super important.
Well, I mean, that just has Ben dead on board then. Because... Oh, yeah. Bloodstained Mire cannot get Tropical Island.
Yep. It can get Underground Sea.
All right,
and that's going to do it. Nathan Blackmon's going to win this match over Ben Friedman. Friedman conceding because Nathan's going to cast a Brainstorm, make a token, and then be able to kill him. Grixis Control will take care of Esper Stoneblade to start off our day. And it is the Texas player who is our lone undefeated. Grixis Control looking pretty good in our future match area.
Yeah, I mean, dig through time, pulling him through both those games, that raw card advantage, so hard to overcome for Ben.
I think that matchup is very hard for Ben to win.
You know, and it does look that way. At first, I was thinking that maybe he doesn't have as much dig through time, but that Ben would be able to rely on cards like Batterskull and Lingering Souls to overpower Nathan's card economy. But having watched those games, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Now, for what it's worth, Dak Faden played a huge role in those games. Dak Faden came down at exactly the right time to take Batterskull, which was the way that Ben was trying to win both of those games.